culture is capable of normalizing negative vices. Over the years, there has been a growing narrative that the use of drugs is synonymous with celebrity lifestyle and status. Despite warnings about the dangers of drug abuse, it is fast becoming a culture among young people who often are not aware of the real dangers. Tony Alakija is a former journalist and press photographer. Nostalgia is what he feels here, where he was a frequent customer of illicit drug slingers. Tony began using drugs at an early age of 18 and is thankful for another chance. After above 40 years of being addicted to drugs, Tony almost gave up on life and was on the verge of suicide.
I'm being alive today. I don't know how it came to pass. A few weeks from the day of this recording, I'll be 60 years old. I had friends who died in the same age bracket. I have friends who, after being weaned from drugs, after the normal rehabilitation, they have stroke.
The beginnings of Tony's addiction can be traced to a secluded childhood. As a boy, Tony found solace in literature and was influenced by rock music stars.
When I look back at my childhood, I don't know who to blame. Is it myself? Is it my parents? Or let me just give you a clear picture. I came from a family that, well, I would say, well, I live in a cloistered environment, very close environment. I imagine I lived in Ikoyi. My parents are well educated, but I found that during my growing years, we're not always allowed to go out, play with other children in the neighborhood. At the end of the day, I started school. Oh, I want to do this. Don't mind them. You can't mix with those boys. I started wondering why. I love to play football. I love to wrestle. I love to get my feet wet. But I dare not. At the end of the day, when I found out, well, I couldn't mix because of my restrictions, I discovered one thing: I love to read. In fact, I started reading as early as 8 years old because my father was in the media. He had lots of books. And because of my reading, I read a lot of novels and whatever. When people say peer pressure, it wasn't peer pressure. It was out of curiosity or maybe experimenting. I remember the book I read that, made me to be aware of what is called drugs or narcotics. That is Sherlock Holmes by author Conan Doyle. This is a story of a master detective. If there's any crime committed, before he goes about solving this crime problem, he's always on some sort of opium. He gets so high and it's like it's somehow psychic. He is able to unravel this crime. I love that. Later on in secondary school, I read about Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He's a poet. I remember that poem, Rime on the Ancient Mariner. Along the way, I was reading some other things about him. I found that Taylor Coleridge wrote that poem under the influence of opium. And I said to myself, well, if that should be the case, these guys are masters in their own way. I could be like them. I started as early as roughly when I was 18 years old. That was when I started experimenting. The first drug I took was Mandrax in 1977 during Festac. I was able to come in contact with some American stars who came from Festac. There was Dizzy Gillespie. Backstage in 1977, Dizzy Gillespie smokes Indian hemp through a chicken thigh bone. I was happy seeing them. Dizzy Gillespie is a trumpeter, Randy Weston is a pianist. It was at the height of that Festac drug spilled into Nigeria.
The first time I met my husband was in a church. After marriage, I went to the home, I took him, I have my son. And during that process, the late coming started. My husband initially was a loving man. He was working when I met him, and his happiest day was the day he earns his salary. All you will see, he will put the envelope on the table and drop a note for you. So one day, I decided to give him a chance without him knowing, to know exactly what is happening in the evening time. I traced him to Fela's shrine. The cigarette I see, I asked, why do you smoke cigarettes? This, that. But I was just talking on my own understanding of smoking cigarette. I don't know the other one. So, but things started going upside down. Tony is very intelligent, and that's what I had wanted from a man.
Tony, if you ask him anything, he will tell you the time and he will tell you the date. Tony was a very good boy then, because he was staying with one of our uncle in Alagomeji. He was a journalist too, before he got married to Antonia. And I would say it's the mother who caused Tony's problem because of over-pampering, because he's the only boy.
So the first time I met Mr. Tony, it was so interesting. I mean, the regret is there. The regret is there. I've wasted so much. The first thing he told me was, I'll be 60 in August. And that got me thinking. And in the course of this discussion, I discovered I was a journalist. Wow. When I heard the story, how far he had gone, working with presidents in this country, that got me, quite interested. That no, this is a life that can still fulfill destiny.
Tony, when Tony came in, great, he's elderly, but sometimes I feel like, how will I be able to manage this elderly girl? Because one thing I notice about him is very volatile. You understand? Very volatile, very difficult to handle. But God gave me the grace. Anytime he comes with his hunger, we talk about it, he's able to see reasons why he must break away from the old pattern of thinking. High and high for high on the streets. That was his lifestyle. He's a good writer, and I encourage him. Write your thoughts. No matter how crazy your thoughts are, write them down. And from there, when I discovered that he's a good writer, I started encouraging him to read.
According to the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, 1 out of 20 people consume illicit drugs globally. In Nigeria, 40% of our youth engage in substance abuse, from cannabis, tramadol, and cocaine. The implications are major.
A situation where a particular person, find herself not being able to do without a certain substance, and that substance can be anything. But there are certain substances that are addictive, meaning that they want to just keep pulling you, as it were, and then you take those ones, and then you come to a stage where you cannot just stop. They are psychoactive substances. It affects the brain.
when I was on drugs, I was quite aware. Sometimes if I take a particular narcotic, I always have a pen and a paper. I will be writing down the way it's reacting in my system. I will write out the period, maybe I'm semi-conscious or I'm really hallucinating. So in 1984, I called my mom. I said, look, Mom, I said, look, I'm going crazy. She took me to Dr. Johnson in Yaba. In the end, I found out I was the first patient who was administered for drug abuse.
So the particular effect will not depend on the substance being abused. There are long-term effects, there are short-term effects. And some of them have, virtually all of them, they have mind-altering abilities. Meaning that some person just must be able to think straight. There are some things that the brain is not working and then it's affecting the mind. So the person is not able to think straight. The person begins to see things. The person begins to hear things. We have them very anxious at some point, and then the next moment they are depressed. So that's swing. And that is actually even a medical condition, because if it's persistent, it now becomes a major psychiatric issue.
So when people start using drugs, they do not have at the back of their mind to get addicted. Even when they look at an addict, they will, in their mind, I can't be like this guy. But over the years, when they start using it, they start depending on it. Then now it starts bending their mind. Their mind starts telling them, you must depend on this. Their mind starts giving them a new idea of the fact that if you leave it, you won't be able to function again. So it's the sin of the mind.
Addiction affects the victim's career, health and finances negatively, leaving the families at the receiving end.
In his sober mood, he cries. But when he cries finish, he will ask, oh God, why is it that what I love to do, I don't do it, and what I don't like to do is what I do? And then that will put me in pain, because by that time things are going bad, and I want to know, where is this coming from? If Tony cry finish, he will ask me, why don't you run? I'll kill you.
One day in 2014, we had a big row, quarrel. The following morning, she just told me, she said, look, Tony, you have been asking me to leave you all these years. If you think I have nowhere to go, I am going. I am taking my son. Your auntie said if your son should live with you, he will end up the way you do.
Early exposure can make children become addicts later in life. Children from broken homes are even more vulnerable.
When we look around us generally, the danger is quite very high. And since we started our commitment to this work at ADDICTS, we have discovered that drug problem is not actually adult problem. It's actually down to almost cradle with some children. Some children are introduced into drug addiction as soon as they can drink or take anything without anybody telling them the danger of it. And unfortunately, the only people they see around them are people who live on it. So at times, we discover that many people are into it ignorantly. They just grow into it. And with our children being exposed continuously, we feel that it is high time we actually shout. It is high time we actually do something. It is high time we actually educate people properly.
Because I will look at myself. I knew something was missing greatly in my life. I have a son. I was not there for him. From creche, daycare, primary, secondary, university. Right now, I don't even know where his school. I will just hear the name of the school. I don't even check his reports. I felt very empty within myself.
The son, when he was young, he doesn't really understand. But the depression was on him when he got into the secondary school, because it was, even when he was still young, the boy will feel bad because at times they have to sleep in the sitting room.
As a child, I never see my mom and my dad quarrel for one day. So in my own case, I just want to cover my child out of this, to notice when we are shouting, when we are doing anything. And before he comes back, I will always make my son to sleep.
When we go to the streets, we see children that are vulnerable in all levels. And these children are exposed to drugs, they are exposed to sex, they are exposed to stealing, pickpocketing, all the vices. I mean, they're so numerous to mention. Now, for drugs, I see it as one of their coping mechanisms. These children are looking for how they will cope in the situation they found themselves. They know that it's not healthy, they know that it is not a place they want to be, but they don't have anywhere else to go. And for them to cope, they need something to keep them going.
From our own statistical observation or analysis, out of 100% of children that have passed through this institution, we discovered that 80% have been exposed to drug outside.
I decided from the onset that he must be a border, so that at least by this time the thing is getting out of hand. He will not notice, because my fear was, he's a man, he's a boy, and the boy grows a man, and there are so many things he may learn that may not favor me, because that's the only one I see, and I shield him from that.
One in 3 people who died from suicide are under the influence of drugs. Addicts have a depression rate 4 times higher than everyone else. Depression is a major cause of suicide among drug addicts.
So when my wife left, I just looked at myself, that is, okay, what left? Now, right, left, center, everything, I have nobody. Before that time, I've been having suicidal tendencies. Several times I get drunk, I get doped up, I'll walk purposefully in front of a vehicle, the vehicle will knock me. Sometimes I'll take overdose.
So the truth is, they don't like where they found themselves. Many times the truth is, they didn't plan. They just got in there. It was accidental. Nobody will just wake up one day and say, I want to become a drug addict. No, didn't plan it. You didn't want to be a drug addict. So psychologically, sometimes they want to end it. Because, and then of course, nobody loves me, nobody wants to, nobody is interested in me, I've messed up, I can't make anything out of my life, and blah blah blah. A whole lot of reasons why people can become suicidal. Oh yes, become suicidal.
One day, he went out, and as he's about to cross, he was knocked on a moving vehicle. By then, he keep on telling them to call me, and they called me. I have to return. I sent somebody to the place, the hospital, to check whether he's still alive. And I learned, when the hospital tried and tried, there's a time he passed away. They thought he has gone. And when the priest came to give him the last sacrament, he touched his toe. He moved. He said, no, don't push me. They don't want to bring him out. He's still alive.
Because I remember that time we were in, when he was in Ikorodu, that he came to our house one day. That's, Auntie, I don't even mind. If I want to die, let me die. I told Antonia is not giving anything. I will go anywhere. Nobody should look for me. If I die, that will be all. I said, if you die, you will die and they will bury you as proper.
I will never forget that day, 15th of August 2014. Purposely went out. I bought this Fortwin, bought another injection, and I bought almost about 2 grams of coke. So after smoking that cocaine, I was so high, I felt so excited sort of. And now administer this injection. I said it in my mind. Finish. You will just die here when your body is smelling. Your neighbors will come and pick your corpse and then they just going to throw you away. God, thank you for messing me up this way. And now injected. Whilst I was injecting, I dropped off sleeping. And I slept off for the next 3 days.
Many addicts do not know they have a problem until they reach a precipice. Finding help is one of the key steps to overcoming addiction.
When people make up their mind that they are ready to stop doing drugs, the first thing is, look, will you submit yourself to rehabilitation? Rehabilitation entails total ostracization from the community where they have access, where they have their friends, taking everything from them to just, get the toxic thing out of their system.
Journey to recovery would have to start with the fact that the person that is abusing the substance must acknowledge that he or she has a problem and is willing to be assisted. And then you must be able to go through that recovery process so that your body is detoxified, your body comes back to normal. Yes, some of those recoveries, withdrawal symptoms, yes, can be really tough. But that's why you have experts. Now you have people who can help you.
Because they cannot solve their problem at that level they are into the drugs. So they need another type of information. And that is where Kadam comes in. To educate, to reorientate, to make individuals believe that they can stop before it's too late, that they can stop. If any addict can come to the fact that is ready to accept a situation, number one, is ready to believe that it can live a new life, number two, and number three, if he's conscious of the fact that the choice he makes from that moment would take him to the future, whether an addict future, a new future. So he must come to that and make a new choice.
It was after about my 9th admission. I knew something was really wrong with me, but I just couldn't get myself. Until 2011, my wife now told me, said, "Look, you are having problem." In my mind, why are you asking me? She said, "Do you know I have a friend? Can you go to rehab?" In my mind, I was ready. I went into the rehab. It was supposed to be a year program. The first 6 months, I didn't finish. The second time, I now voluntarily went to the rehab. There, you will have opportunity to read. Like I always tell people, I read some bad literature. It corrupted me. I now came across some good books that really changed my life.
The journey to recovery was slow, tedious and unsettling. Tony found strength in Christian books and became convinced that true change had to come from within. The impact of drugs on our society is like a cancer, affecting all areas of national life, from crime to broken homes and high healthcare costs. We must all join hands to fight the menace. Helpgate Foundation is an NGO focused on raising awareness among the young population concerning the dangers of drug abuse.
The role of creating awareness is actually to call everyone's attention to the fact that these problems exist. And I think in this awareness, the government really needs to step up the game. The government needs to begin to give meaningful support to organizations and associations that are focused on these things.
This is a social service. It is. And it's actually one of the major responsibilities of government. Social service, when you find private people, individuals, organizations and all that coming into the social space, they're only assisting, or we are only assisting the government. One of the things that the government needs to do is to acknowledge that there's a problem in this regards. Let government have such facilities where even if they will pay, it will not be anything much. And once people know that, okay, this one has gone in and is making a success, of course, for the absorption into the society after rehabilitation. Very crucial. Very crucial.
Everybody is at a risk, especially when the children are involved. If you don't create awareness, a very strong campaign for people to know the dangers of drugs, a lot of people are going to fall victims.
Awareness is key, and the cost of management is higher than the cost of prevention. After his rehabilitation, Tony felt an urging to do something to help others. He found an opportunity at Helpgate Foundation. Tony is settling into his new role. At 60, Tony realizes he needs to give back and reminds us all that it's never too late for a turnaround.
My role in Helpgate is helping me because right now I'm in charge of the soup kitchen. This is a kind of an arrangement. We give free lunch to whoever may wish to come. You see people financially disadvantaged, you see drug addicts trying to rehabilitate from the soup kitchen. They may be counseled if they want to. If they want to go for rehabilitation, they put down their names. We got some names now. At the end of my interaction with them, I experienced a change. Before I was very impatient, but these days I will stop and listen, no matter how irrelevant. A lot of people are aching in their hearts one way or the other. We have a lot of closet addicts. Maybe when we start admitting our weaknesses, God Himself will strengthen us.
I see a person turning around. I see somebody wanting to catch back where he has lost a longer time. In fact, I was impressed. And he can go and come back and tell me how he's going to write again, how he's going to do this again, how he's going to be back a journalist he is. And that's the new Tony till today.
I remember sometimes, some months ago, I was in a car with my wife. We got to one of these officers checking vehicle particulars. As we pulled to one corner, the officer came. Toga, you live in Ikeja? I said, yes. He said, come on. He said, you have one brother. The man looks like you. Are you twins? I knew where I was going. I said, yes. He said, that your brother na junkie. Real Chris man. He dey speak on Igbo. Where he dey now? Because as I see you now, you will be. I said, yes. I said, where is he now? I just said he's dead. The old Tony is dead.
You see, stigmatization is a norm. It's something that is just naturally there with us in the society. Somebody must be there to be able to help them, to give them reassurance. That's why we are passionate about this cause.
Stigmatization of former drug users can lead to depression and relapse, but with love and support, they can find their feet again and live a drug-free life. Say no to stigmatization. Say no to drugs. Stay clean. Stay safe. Spread the word.